Hello, everyone. Okay, so I'm really very grateful to be here, and I consider it a big honor to have been the very first person to give this kind of lecture to this very wonderful audience. I've had few hours of moving around, being showcased, a lot of the development that has happened, some innovations, and honestly, the things that you have here, they're really mind-blowing. So I want to stand on the existing protocol to really thank everyone that is here, all academic staff, non-academic staff, and students. And so because of the time that we have, we just have to go straight into the business of the day. And this topic is of importance to me as a Nigerian, and of course because we have seen how there's been some kind of desecration of values in our society, the Nigerian society. Of course, globally, we have desecration of values, and that's why we have all of the issues that we have all around the globe, wars here and there. But particularly to bring it home, it is disheartening to see the kind of things that happen in our nation. And of course, there is no way you're going to ascribe some reasoning to some of those things without finding the common base in loss of values. And so it looks like we can take it biblically, and I know we have people of different faiths here really, but because of my own understanding of some of the doctrines of the Bible, I just look at it to say the walls, it's like the walls of Nigeria are broken, so we need a kind of a rebuilding. So if we go to the topic, which is building value-based, if you can just move to the next, please. Building value-based processes to achieve success. Now, this topic can be applied to individuals, is relevant to businesses, is relevant to institutions like ours, as much as it's relevant to government as well. And so we'll take it from there. So it's building value-driven processes in achieving success. We need to focus on the how more than the what. Sometimes we are driven by the things that we want to achieve, such that we don't care who we run into. We don't care who we offend. We don't even think we offend anybody in the first place. So we just need to know that the kind of environment that we have, an education, an institution of higher learning, for example, while we are developing technical skills, we also need to understand that rebuilding the wall of Jerusalem has to do with a lot of value creation. So for our guide, in the next 20 to 25 minutes, we want to talk briefly about some opening reflection, something that I just want to think about. Yeah. Okay. So something that we need to think of as we move on. So we have the opening reflections. If we can move to the next slide, please. So for the opening reflection, we do some definitions and we talk about a couple of things as we move on in the process. So let's move on. Yeah. Now, this is a quote. It's anonymous. We don't even know who brought this up. It said, "The what may impress the world, but the how defines your legacy." So what it means is you can achieve a lot of things using different means to achieve it. And we say the end justify the means. But I have someone that told us that a destructive means will not bring about a constructive end. So let's put our mind on this anonymous quote. Then I'm going to ask a question as well. As students, as instructors, as professors, as engineers, in whatever kind of profession we are in, how proud will you be if people knew how you achieved your success? I know people will be proud of your success. A lot of people will clap for us when we succeed. But will you be as proud when people are told how you achieved it? Now, I need to give a story here. And there's a country. It's very close to us. I don't know if it is with us, where somebody wanted to become the minister, or just a minister, maybe a federal minister. And he did everything he could to become a minister. And he did. He became a minister. And people clapped for him. A lot of people were very, very happy. They celebrated, maybe we all celebrated his achievement, you know. So many years down the line, a lot of investigations were conducted. And they found out that he forged his certificate. Well, I don't know if that resonates here in the room. I don't know the country. Somebody just told me there was a country like that. Now the question is, of all the clappings that we've done for him, of all the congratulatory messages that he has had after becoming the minister, and of all the other things that he has achieved before even becoming minister, now that we know part of the process of his success, are we proud of that achievement? Now let's move on. So, I just put that as honorable minister. Let's take it away. I want to go back complete, you know. So now let's talk about some definitions. Now, what exactly is success? What is success? I just want us to do a little bit of explaining. Now, it is the achieving of the results wanted or hoped for. It could be anything. You just want to achieve something. But a few things I want us to look at. Success cannot be taken to be a universal thing. What I mean is, individuals will have to define what success is to him or her. For example, when I was doing my undergrad, there were guys in my class that what they would consider to be success is if they will have distinction. For me, if I had 50, that was success. So you can see all of us in the same class, but we defined our success differently. So anytime I saw the guys that wanted distinction running to class and sleeping in the class, I'm sleeping in my room. Of course, I regretted that because we're in a school environment and we don't want to promote that, right? So here, as we're in this place, 10 people in the same class, taking the same course, success is different for all of us. We're all Nigerians. I know there may be one Ghanaian here, but I mean, majority of us here are Nigerians. We have different ways of defining what success is to us. So it is individualizable. So yeah, that means you can pick from whatever and say, this is what I consider to be success. Otherwise, people will determine success for you and you'll be running a race that is unnecessary. You'll probably be fighting unnecessary battles as well. Now, one thing we need to consider about success, let us compare capacity utilization and performance. Now, I tell my kids this, that I don't want to have somebody that will burn out just wanting to impress. When athletes want to perform, a lot of them take performance-enhancing drugs. But what happens when they are found out? They strip them of whatever they have gotten. So, for success, let's focus on capacity utilization. If I have a 50-liter jerry can that is half filled, or there is even no liquid in it, and I have a 10-liter jerry can that is filled, and I'm offered a chance to choose, of course, I'll pick the 50 liter that is half filled because I know I have capacity to move it up to 50. But the 10 liter jerry can is already filled to capacity. There is nothing you can do about it. So it is not good for anyone for you to have capacity to do 100 and you are doing 90. But you must be sure that you are not doing anything to impress anyone. Just that you know your capacity and you want to maximize it. That is really, really very important. Because that's when you can be happy when you are achieving it is you are achieving. That's when you are not going to go and forge certificates to say you have a certification that you do not have. What are the ingredients for success? They're just two things: planning and discipline. Because if you do not plan, you run life without compass, kind of. You can imagine if I was coming here and I didn't have someone who knows this place very well driving, and I'm not using the GPS map, I'll just probably go to Ilorin rather than coming to this side. So we need planning. All of us need planning to be able to do all of those. But planning is just one, because it's a lot of work. We also need discipline to be able to execute all the plans that we have made. Maybe you guys have plans to be first-class students and all that, which is great. But it's not just by word of mouth. You need to develop actionable strategies to be able to achieve that. Maybe you tell yourself how many hours you're going to be reading for in a particular week. Now, process. What is process? I think this is more simple. It's simpler, kind of. It's a series of actions that you take in order to achieve a result. Like you have peace process. You know, if two people are fighting, two countries are fighting, and you want to bring peace, like somebody was looking for a way to be Nobel Prize, to win the Nobel Prize for peace. So there are processes for a lot of things. Business process. When people want to run business successfully, there are processes you need to follow to get you to where you want to get to. Now let's move on. Then we'll go to definitions of value. These are the key terms in this subject that I want us to look at. There are two ways I want us to look at value, but we're going to pick just one of them that is relevant to this topic. So, value is the regard that something is held to deserve. The importance, worth, or usefulness of something, like the value of my friendship with Noah Nash. That's value. The value of having a relationship with someone, that's value. But of course, another value is you can consider to be principles or standards of behavior that guide an individual's decisions and actions. They are deep-seated beliefs about what is right, what is important, or desirable in life. Now, this is what we want to talk about, not the first one. I know a lot of us know the value from the other side, but let's talk about this value, because that's what we're going to. What are the examples of values that we can talk of? There are a lot of them. Honesty. That's telling the truth, even when it's difficult. Integrity. That's consistency between words and actions. Discipline. Doing what is necessary, even when it's not convenient. Compassion. You have to care for others. Care for their well-being, irrespective of who they are, and many more. And the reason for this is, if we don't set all of these parameters and we are pursuing success, you will do it in such a way that you won't even care how your action is affecting the other person. Now, I don't think success built that way can last. Let's move on. So, let's break this topic down. The what, why, and how questions. What are these? So let's go to the why, for example. In this particular topic that we're looking at, the why is to achieve success. We want to achieve success. That's the ultimate goal. And the what is, it's like, what do we have to do to be able to achieve success? So we want to build process or processes. Now, how do we want to build this process? Because to build process, we could achieve that in many ways. But we need to build this process it has to be value-driven processes. Value-driven, now let's look at some of those things that were identified as values. And we're going to see a couple of them again when we get to some part of this discussion. Now, those values are important for us to build into the creation of processes that we want to adopt to achieve the success that we're looking at. Now, what this tells us, in anything that we want to do, we need to ask the why question. Why do I want to do this? I want to go to school to study engineering. Why? So, when I was preparing for my certification, for the accounting certification with ICANN, myself and my friend that were going to classes together, well, after we finished, we told ourselves, what actually did we achieve? So while some other guys were in the center, in the ICANN center, building relationships, we were just focused on reading to pass. Of course, we passed. But what it meant was that it took us longer to be able to get jobs, even with qualifying, than it took the guys that networked while we were doing the same course. You get the difference. So your why is sometimes going to suggest how you're going to develop the process. Of course, all of us were in class. We probably passed the exam before a lot of them, but they got some better jobs than myself and my friend did. Of course, you could say sometimes that God knows what he's doing, but what it means is the why is so very important in doing the what that you are doing. Now, when we're talking about values, what are those things that should guide us? You cannot be pursuing success and be breaking ethical rules. Almost in every profession, you have ethics. Things that are like guiding principles of your profession, of whatever you are doing, that you have to stay within the bracket of those ethics. We also have legal standards. You cannot be scheming to become a minister and forge certificate. I mean, that's not the first person that will do it here. Did I say here? Sorry. Well, wherever, we cannot do that. It's because it is illegal. Forgery is criminal, right? So if whatever you are doing, it's outside of legal standards, I don't know how you're going to feel when you are caught. Then there are regulatory requirements that for example, when I was actively trading and I was in leadership in the stockbroking and investment firms I was working with, one of the regulations that the SEC has, Security and Exchange Commission, was you must have a functioning board of directors. And they should meet at least, maybe I think 4 times in a year. Of course, there were a lot of stockbroking firms that had boards, but the meetings they were having were just very cosmetic. I talked a little bit about this in my last book. Now, some of those guys are not even in operation anymore because they just thought they could just do things anyhow. Then there are moral expectations. There are things that even if they are not legally or ethically condemned, morally speaking, you don't want to go into that. Now, I'm going to tell another story here. And I say it's pride movement in the stock market. I'll try not to mention names. I'll try, but I'm not too sure how successful I can be. So when I was trading, like actively in the stock market, in the maybe 2008, 2009, 2010 kind of, market, at some point, market was very boisterous. The movement in the market was crazy. And I want to be careful because a lot of us probably lost money doing one form of investment or the other. So, and I know this can evolve some kind of emotion. So I'm saying it just for the purpose of this discussion, for us to understand that sometimes when you think you are smart, you are probably just going to shoot yourself in the leg. Now, I'll mention GTB, and I'm not doing any kind of promotion for GTB. This is just what any average stockbroker in the market that traded much earlier in the year will tell you about that company. The price movement of GTB at that time was very consistent. You can see the movement, that it follows the patterns expected of a normal stock movement. It may not be slow, it may be like medium kind of movement, but steady. Goes forward, move backwards, but overall, you see that they are making some progress. But there's our other banks that, so at the beginning, GTB was trading much more than these other guys. But at some point, they caught up and they overtook. At some point, I'm sure these two other companies, let's say A, these two other banks, Bank A and B, were almost like double the price of GTB, you know. Then there was a certain Malam Lamido Sanusi Lamido. In the market, then we call it the Sanusi tsunami, that came and opened a lot of cans of worms, and there were a lot of audits into the books of the banks. Now, those two banks, as we talk today, they're no more in existence. They're not even, it's not that their prices are low, they are not even more in existence at all. But we still have a GTB, which is still one of the top banks in Nigeria today, irrespective of the kind of things that people have said against GTB and all of those things, which we don't even know what the sources of some of those things are. We can see that to abide by the rules and make sure that your progress is not teleguided, is not managed, the benefit is unquantifiable. Now, what are the influences on approaches to achieving success? I just need to use those two stories to capture our mind about creating value-driven processes. If you want your stock price to move, there are things you should focus on. Focus on your fundamentals. Make sure that your management is doing enough, making the profit that can be tested to be true. I remember in one of the, so in the market, there's this thing we call facts behind the figures. After a company would have sent its result to the stock exchange, the company will come and they want to kind of show us how they got into those kind of figures. And they came up, this bank, one of the banks that is no more, came up, they said a lot of things, and they declared dividend. By the time another company took them over after the tsunami, they wrote to the exchange to say that the dividend that was declared will not be paid, because that in actual fact, that year's account should have been a loss. And you know that you can only declare dividend when you have made profit. So that means the account probably had been so doctored to read that there was profit, within which they were going to pay dividend. So we need to build things that can last. And we don't need to lie about our situations. We need to accept where we are, even if we're not up to our peers, but develop strategies, develop plans, and be disciplined to execute the things that we have identified as we move on. Now, these are the influences on accountability. Just get somebody that you can be accountable to, that can tell you, I think what you are doing is wrong, that can speak truth to you, not somebody that you can just coerce into believing you. Then you have to know the rules. You know the rules, obey the rules and regulations, avoid shortcuts. It's never going to be short. You'll find out at the end of the day that it's longer than you thought it was. Be disciplined. Let's be consistent in the application of rules. If you're going to condemn something for somebody, don't accept it for yourself. Because what is good for the goose is also good for the gander, as they tell us. Let's move on. Let's move on. Now, we're almost coming to the conclusion of this matter, but let's talk about some key things that we've talked about. And of course, we also go to call to action. We have defined some key terms here. We've talked about what value is. We've talked about what processes are. And we kind of try to explain success as well, and the fact that success is individualizable and is really universal. Now, we've also identified the what and the why and the how of this particular topic. We've itemized some essentials of building value-driven processes as well. Now, if we look at what should we do, what's the call to action? After talking about some of these things, what should we do? What should we do? Call to action. Okay, so to the university, and I sang along in the university's anthem, and I saw where we're going to make a difference to our nation and to humanity. If we have counted ourselves as that agent of change, one of the things that we have to be focused on will be to build value-minded people. So we have to be deliberate about ensuring that students imbibe the values of the institution. We're not talking about religious obligations and all of those things. You know, as much as I go to church, sometimes some of those things are not things that we can class into religious things. They're just values that an institution believes in and is living it and is inculcating into others. We also have to look beyond our position relative to other universities. I mean, I know that we're in this space of competition, but beyond the number of students that we have, beyond the quality of the education that we provide, and these are good, let's also look at what impact do we want the people that we produce to have in the larger society. That should be very, very paramount in our mind as administrators, as instructors, as lecturers, and all of that. And we should adopt value-based hiring process, no matter how much of need we have for human capital. If we cannot identify those that can imbibe our culture, our values, we can wait for the next person. Because the only thing that we should do to a virus, the prof is an IT person, is to get it out of the system. Otherwise, it's going to corrupt other files. Now, let's move on. And to the students, my next slide, please. What's the call to action to students? Students, please develop your own personal values. We have to be people that are honest. Don't say because you want to pass an exam, try to cheat in any form. Whether it's copying or whatever kind of things that you can classify as cheating, don't do it. You need to have integrity. You need to be disciplined. Discipline, it's despite how difficult it is to follow some processes, you just have to keep going. Respect for others, respect for yourself as well. And this is very key. And empathy. You need to put yourself in the position of the other person when you want to do your things. Just make sure that you imbibe some, and there are more of these, there are a lot of them that we can think about that you can inculcate. Now, you need to create personal plans as well. Develop plans. Sometimes one of the things that I do is I ask myself, in 5 years, what do I want to be? Where do I want to be? So I ask myself, if I grow at the rate I'm growing now, will I get there at that time? So if my answer is no, then I ask myself, what do I have to do to be able to get there? Do I have to write a professional exam? Do I have to go back to school to do something? Do I have to do a short course to be able to achieve that? Do I have to build connections with people to be able to achieve that? And those are the kind of things I think we should all do as students. Vision, have some personal visions, develop some goals, and be disciplined to do them. Now, to all of us, to everyone, we need to strive to fill societal value gaps. I don't think we will contest that to say there is value gaps all around us. You see what people do, maybe outside of this place, you wonder, where's our value? How will somebody get to the extent of killing another person just because he wants to make money? How do you see your people suffering and you are stuffing millions into your own account, building it for your kids? Money that should be used to develop facilities for education for all of those kind of things. And you still go and forge certificates. Okay. Now, always find the why of whatever you want to do. If you don't have a good reason to do a particular thing, it's just move on to the next thing. It is always important to ask the why question. Why am I here? Why do I want to punish this person? Why do I want to take this money? What is it going to do for me? What is it going to do for my community? Why? Ask the question, who will my actions affect, both positively and negatively? And this is in any kind of relationship that we are in. How is it going to affect me? How is it going to affect my daughter? How is it going to affect my wife? How is it going to affect my husband? How does it affect my students? How does this affect the owner of the institution I'm working for? How does this affect the people that are working for me? Now, we need to engage in strategic planning, visioning. That's the why. Your vision is why you want to do a particular thing. So you need to have some vision. Identifying specific areas that you want to focus on. That's your word. Those are the words that you need to do. And you need to do action planning. Because if you plan and you don't execute the plan, those are just wishful thinking. There is nothing anybody can do about that. And now, how do we apply this? We can apply this in school while we're learning, in the society as we relate with people, when you're in employment, in business, when you're running yours or family business, in government, whether you are in politics or you are a civil servant. We can just apply some of these things in all places. We need values everywhere. Values, and this is said by John Maxwell. Values are not taught by lectures. They are caught by observing how we live. And that's the how question there again. That's the how question again. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide. Then I'll take questions.
I want you to give a rousing round of applause to our highly distinguished lecturer for today. I want to give a venue for just 2 questions. We are very time conscious. We want this lecture to just be for an hour, and we've tried to be within the ambient of time. Special thanks to our lecturer for doing justice to the time. So 1 question from the student, and then 1 from staff members. Any question? Please just put up your hand. Okay, Dr. Owolabi, are you raising your hand, sir? Question from student? Okay, Dr. Olabode. Question from student? The usher? Do you have a question from any student? SRC member? Okay, yes. Just step forward so that we can take your question. Please go ahead, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. I must say that you have actually touched the nerves of the problem of this nation. And my question has to do with what can we do as a nation to close this gap, this value gap, that is evidently the problem of Nigeria. Thank you.
That was the HOD of all the HODs, the HOD of the Vice Chancellor, the head of department, Mathematical and Computer Science Department. Yes. Please give this student a rousing round of applause. 100 level, right? Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. My name is Phoebe. Sir, I want to ask, as a student, how do we keep going, even when it seems difficult?
Thank you very much. That's a very courageous question from a student. This student has just spent approximately a week and a few days in the campus. So for her to courageously ask that kind of question, she has a gem burning inside her. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Your question may require longer answer. So let me deal with the HOD of HODs first. So thank you very much. So where do we start from? I think we should start from ourselves, because the problem is really myriad, it's really multifaceted. And so I will say what I've decided to do, like personally. So when we created Actrite Canada Incorporation, we actually had Nigeria in mind. And so right now, we're creating that Actrite Nigeria. Well, the name may not be available, but of course, something like that. And what we're trying to do is, we just think we need to promote responsible citizenship as well. It's so easy to lay the blame on the leaders. But you agree with me that there is no leader that would not have been a follower. So if we can have the opportunity to fix citizenship, and it's simple. Some of these things that we're talking about as values, if we all commit to being value-minded people, and I'll give an example. If I'm driving on the highway or anywhere, and some guys are following me, are driving behind me, and I want to greet someone by the side, and I slow down, probably stop, to greet people when I have some piles of cars behind me, I'm being selfish. It's things that are simple as that are the problems that we have in this country. So it's there was a video that went viral. An innocent child was being dedicated. And the person that was praying that that child will eat of Nigeria's money. And people were shouting amen. So we have sunk to the depth that is unimaginable. So if we can, I have a strength that when something happens to me, I want to ask myself first, what did I do? Or what did I not do? If I fail an exam, for example, I want to ask, was it in my preparation? Was it that I messed up in the exam hall or something like that? Before I look outward, I try to look inward first. And so sometimes we need to ask ourselves, in which area can we also contribute to making Nigeria better? And I know that there are a lot of people around us that are misbehaving. And sometimes when you see those people advancing and you are not, you are kind of tempted to want to say, let me also, even if it is just once or twice. But we cannot, we shouldn't. We should speak against things that are not good and be committed to doing things that are good. And it's not difficult to know things that are good and things that are not good. So I think it's more of, we want to start talking on radio, going to churches, going to mosques, going to traditional rulers, organize novelty marches between tribes, just to make sure they were talking to people that nobody is superior to another person, whether it's on the account of, and I have a lot of regard for age, not even on the account of age is anybody superior to another person. All of us were created in Adam's. Not even on the account of whatever status you think you have. It doesn't matter your qualification. It doesn't matter how many professional and academic certifications that you have. Some of those things are just privileges that we hang on to want to try to oppress people. So we are all equal. No human being is better than the other. If you are gifted more than the person, more than somebody else, you didn't provide the gift, God provided it. So what's your own? We are only allowed to use our giftings to make others better, not to put them down. So in a way, these are the kind of things that I think we need to do as individuals, that we need to promote. Actually, thank you, sir. So your question is the essence of this topic. When you feel discouraged, you have to ask the why of what you are doing. So I told my daughter that I wanted to do, she likes kids, so she's studying nursing now, but at the time she was deciding what she needed to do, so I was telling her, but she wants to do pediatric nursing, Bolu. So I said, why don't you want to be a pediatric doctor? I just want, it's not that I don't appreciate nursing. I just wanted to be sure that somebody somewhere in school among her friends has not been saying, look, it's difficult to do nursing or to do medicine. So I said to her, when they tell you that it's difficult, imagine the faces of the kids that you'll be saving when you become a doctor. That should prepare you to do medicine no matter how difficult it is. So the why gives you strength to be able to do what you need to do. So when things are difficult, and you see, nothing good comes easy. Not just for students, for everybody. So if you are focusing on the why of what you need to do, you want to go on to make sure that you do it. And in trying to go on, you want to make sure that the things you do not contravene any law. No shortcut. That's just it. Your question is the essence of this class, honestly.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir, for doing great justice to the question. Coming down, I have looked at a reflection of what we have learned today. And personally, I'll be going home with these lessons. You have taught us that success should be focused on capacity utilization. I will never forget the story you shared, that if you have 10 liters and 50 liters, 10 liters is filled, 50 liters is half filled. You will rather choose 50 liters because you have the capacity to fill the remaining one. That will remain with us. Thank you for teaching us like a teacher. That lesson will remain. Thank you, sir. You've also taught us today that we should not do anything to impress anyone. We should not do it to impress our vice chancellor or the chancellor or the head of department. We should do it in a good way. Success requires planning and discipline. You've taught us that we should focus on how we get success than what. We should get success ethically, not a certificate. Students of Thomas Adewumi University, TAU is a university that embraces academic excellence that is achieved by your efforts solely. Sir, we have zero tolerance to examination malpractice. At the time, we had a department that had just 2 students, and one of them was involved in examination malpractice. The vice chancellor courageously expelled the student, though it will affect that department. And that is one of the things that we are installing till today. We must contribute to academic excellence in the nation. We don't give marks to students, so don't ask for one. We don't pay lecturers for results, so don't give somebody money for one. Here, we want to contribute to the building of a wholesome mind that can transform our nation globally. I'm trying to look at the way you sit back in Canada when you return back. I'm looking at the headlines that flash in Nigeria and be saying, what a country. But we know we can do better. Part of it is the campaign that I have come in to drive today. I have planted a seed that will generate, who knows, possibly in the next few years, some of the students you've inspired today will be living next door to you in Winnipeg. We must obey the rules. We must avoid shortcuts, because shortcuts would actually cut it short. You've told us that having personal vision, and we must have personal vision and be disciplined to identify value gaps and be ready to fill it. We must ask ourselves, will my actions affect my institution, my family, or the people around me? And then finally, I learned that actions are not taught by lectures, they are imbibed and sustained. Thank you very much for all of this. Please, I want you to give a rousing round of applause. Thank you very much. You've done a good one. I have the singular honor and privilege to now invite the Vice Chancellor to present a certificate of appreciation to our distinguished lecturer for today. Please, you can do that better.
This certificate, on behalf of the university, I'm indeed honored and privileged to present the certificate to you for an outstanding delivery of the maiden International Visiting Scholar Lecture with the title, Building Value-Driven Processes in Achieving Success, focusing on the how more than the what. Held today, 14th October 2025, here at our campus in Oko. In addition to the certificate of appreciation, I also have the letter recognizing you as an international visiting scholar to the Faculty of Management and Social Sciences and the TAU Business School on the authority of the Chancellor, Thomas Adewumi University, Engineer Dr. J.B.O. Adewumi. Thank you so much, sir. Dr.
Vice Chancellor, I think we can take the group photograph now. Please, I want to invite the deans, directors to please join the Vice Chancellor and the guest lecturer so that we can take the group photograph. The deans, directors, please, let's march up stage. Members of management present. Deans, directors, sub-deans, please let's kindly join. Heads of departments. Tawi lead. Thank you very much. On behalf of the management and staff of Thomas Adewumi University, we want to extend our heartfelt gratitude to God and to our guest lecturer for today. You've inspired our minds, and we are so grateful to God and to you for that. Thank you so much. We were mentored by University of Ilorin, and they have this magazine that they say that they don't say bye-bye, they say see you again. So we don't want to say bye-bye, we say see you again. Mr. Nash has special interest for TAU. And I am not sure, maybe he's still going to stay here today. Because of the amazing things he has seen since he came. Thank you so much, distinguished members of staff of Thomas Adewumi University and ever looking beautiful and amazing students. I want to appreciate everyone who have made this event a success. I want to appreciate my team members. I want to appreciate Ms. Damilola. I want to appreciate Mr. Joshua. I want to appreciate Ms. Princess, who supported. I want to appreciate the ICT units. I want to appreciate the Works Department, Department of Communication, and everyone who have assisted. I also want to appreciate the cafeteria, everyone who have supported us to make this program a great success. And for every one of you looking beautiful this afternoon who have attended this event. To close the event right now, we'll take the TAU anthem again. Shall we rise to please take? Okay, new student, that is the order in the university. You start an event by learning the national anthem, the university anthem. So you are just welcome to it. Are you getting me? So clap your hands for the TAU anthem. ICT, please.
Salute to Africa, the dawn of a new life, the fulfilling of a dream for mankind. A tower of knowledge with vision so bright, to nurture and nourish many a mind. Scientia Samo, Sapientia Audio, and when knowledge shall speak, with wisdom will listen. In Thomas Adewumi University, the hope of a nation and all humanity. TAU will lead on and follow. Progress our university. Progress our university. Conducive for hallowed minds, souls to flourish. On earth committed to the best quality, and with careful steps we are laying the bricks. Scientia Samo, Sapientia Audio, and when knowledge shall speak, with wisdom we'll listen. In Thomas Adewumi University, the hope of a nation and all humanity. TAU will lead on and follow. Progress our university. Progress our university. God, the creator of all sin and unseen, we pray for your great blessings on everyone, as we all endeavor to make a difference. We look up to you, never leave us alone. Scientia Samo, Sapientia Audio, and when knowledge shall speak, with wisdom we'll listen. In
With the permission of the guest lecturer, the slide for today's lecture will be available shortly on the university's Open Education Resource, OER, on the website. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. Have a splendid evening. Good evening, everyone.
Defender, another part of the under-20.